Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Arthur Hatton. I'm here for a live stream tonight. It's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these, so I went on vacation, and that was really nice. And I'm back home now and doing another painting on live stream. So thanks for joining me. And it looks like I already have a person watching, so that's awesome. Maybe it's my wife upstairs. I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. So you can see I've got the line drawing here already. It's a tracing that I did of a person I follow on Facebook, another artist. Her name is Sarah, and I'm going to ask her if she wants me to link to her social media, but if not, she'll just be anonymous. So this is Sarah, and because Sarah's not like a celebrity that I know of, I don't think so, but basically I can play around with the likeness a little bit and not have to get it exactly right, and I can experiment a little. So great thing about experimenting is this could be a complete train wreck. I have no idea. So if it is, you'll be here to witness it. Hey, Claire's here. How are you doing, Claire? One of these days I'm going to get around to painting one of your portraits. So, I'm just getting started here with talking about the line drawing, and and I also did some swatches. I'm going to borrow a palette that I think that Matt Murphy uses, and Matt Murphy is a really good watercolor artist that I really like, and he does these really light washes, so I'm going to get some inspiration from him, but just like very, very light washes. And so I think I'm going to use this blue here and a mixture of the pink and orange, or maybe the orange and red, alizarin crimson here, but that's what I'm going to be doing. So the cool areas, I've got this blue here, and I think this is a version of cobalt blue, maybe. I don't know. I wish I were prepared for that. Hey, we got 3 viewers already. That's great. So that's my swatches, and I'm just going to get going here. All right. Awesome. Life is good. Hope yours is too. Yeah. Going back to work tomorrow, which is fine. But, I like my job, and I like my clients too. So that's good. Being a psychologist is interesting because it's affirming to my life. It makes me feel good that I'm a part of people's lives and I'm helping them through difficult times. And there is a personal cost, but you kind of just learn as you are in training and stuff how to deal with that personal cost. So part of it is just learning to take breaks and treat yourself and care about yourself, be nice to yourself, that sort of thing. And that's something I'm still learning, of course. Right now I'm doing a really light wash over the cool areas of the face. And when I have a minute and I need to let this stuff dry, I'll find out exactly what the colors are, because that's not nice of me to... Actually, this goes all the way to the edge, so I'm going to do it that way. This is a challenge for me because I have to talk and paint at the same time, which Bob Ross could do it. I'm not so good at it. So maybe the experiment, what's the experiment tonight? The experiment for me is painting light and making a good overall composition. Hey, new viewers, feel free to leave a comment if you'd like, or you can just watch. This is just some blue. Are you working from a reference photo? Hi, Laura. Yes, I am working from a reference photo, but the person that I'm painting is just someone I mutually follow on Instagram, so maybe not someone you'd recognize. I'm going to go ahead and do this top part of the face too. Do you find painting helps you relax so you become more experienced with it? Yes, I do. You know, something clicked for me just when you asked that. Painting used to not be quite so relaxing because so many of the paintings that I did were just train wrecks. You know, watercolor is so weird compared to other mediums because, you know, with oil, even with acrylic, you can go over something over and over again and fix a mistake or whatever. And fixing a mistake for watercolor, just sometimes you can fix it and sometimes you just toss it. So that means there's a possibility of a train wreck every time you do it. And I think the more I paint, the fewer train wrecks I have. And so it can be a little more relaxing. Okay, here we go. I think this is the first time, Laura, you're joining us, so thank you for joining and listening, and feel free to watch as much as you like. I try my best to, you know, I've been told I have somewhat of a relaxing voice, and so I chose Sunday night because it's not a relaxing night for me generally, because I know I have to go to work in the morning, and sometimes I get insomnia because of that. So there we go. So I thought, well, maybe it might be nice for some people who are like me to have like just a relaxing paint along experience. You can just watch me paint and I can talk a little bit. It might get your mind off of, I don't know, having to go to work in the morning, if that's what you do. Let's see. What I'm doing here is I just kind of look at the shapes in my reference photo, and then I either subtly or not so subtly put in the shapes. I follow you on Instagram and love your paintings, but didn't know you had a YouTube channel. It's great. Hey, that's great. I'm so glad that I put it on Instagram, that I do this. I thought it might be annoying to people, but Instagram, you know, they don't always show everything to everybody, which is kind of annoying, but they got some algorithm. But ooh, I liked how that turned out, that little, I don't know if you can see it. Right now it's pretty light. I'm going to do a little bit here too. what I'm doing on this painting is I'm just trying to get a very light wash. And this is going to be an experiment in me dialing it back a little bit, because usually I like really bold colors. And this is going to be me following an inspiration of mine, Matt Murphy. And I'll put a link to his social media. But he's just a nice guy. Always really helpful when I ask him a question or whatever. Hey, what kind of paint are you using? Or whatnot. And anyway, Matt Murphy's a really good painter. I'm sure he's going to have 50,000 views. Art is never annoying. I learn this from people I get feedback from. Yeah, and with social, yeah, that's true, Claire. And with social media, it's more like, you know, if they don't like it, they can just turn it off, so it's okay. Or they can unfollow or mute or whatever. So you've got power. It's not like back in the day when there were 3 channels and whatever was on was on. Does anyone remember that, when there were 3 channels? Let's get some water here. This is me just finding the coolest areas and blocking in some cool tones. And I'm using this light blue to do it. And then maybe I can switch to warm tones and then kind of alternate. LOL, I remember. Yep. I have 2 brothers and a younger sister, and I remember my brothers, it would be, hey, change the channel. Sarah! Feels a little voyeuristic to watch. Okay, Sarah, you've outed yourself now. So everybody, this is a picture of Sarah here. And she's a good artist too, and you can follow her on Instagram. And I want to put up a link to your Instagram, or you can, Sarah, if you want. How does that feel? Does that feel weird? Like I was mentioning before, I'm just blocking in shapes right now, which is basically what I do the whole time. But cool thing about watercolor that I love, this is just what draws me to watercolor, is each layer you put down adds a little bit more vibrancy, a little more darkness. We all have the darkness. And Sarah, feel free, you know, sometimes people pop in, they leave, and it's okay if you want to come back in a bit. Usually a painting takes a couple hours. Right now I'm experimenting with a different style. I feel like every painting is kind of an experiment. So that's what I'm doing, is experimenting with these really light washes. All right, what am I doing here? I'm gonna get some cool here. Watercolor is all about cool and warm. You know, again, difference between me and oil painters. An oil painter can get the tones exactly right, or key up the tones. And watercolor artists, the way that it works, we don't really have the luxury of getting the colors exactly right. Plus, watercolor that's not the strength of watercolor. the strength of watercolor is more getting warm and cool. And so you can kind of just choose like warm and cool, whatever warm color you want, whatever cool color you want, and then just build your painting off of that. See, I'm already liking how this is looking. See how it's like ghostly, which is cool. So, but I won't screw it up. I won't screw it up. Okay. Or maybe I will. It's okay if I do. Low stakes, folks. The stakes are I look stupid in front of people that are watching, but I think I've reached the point in my life, and it was hard earned, that I'm a lot less worried about looking stupid, as evidenced by the ridiculous photo shoot I did today where I was imitating Selena Gomez. I had such bad social anxiety when I was young. Just really shy, and so I was always so afraid of looking stupid, and I still have a little bit of that afraid of looking stupid disease, but I'm working on that too. And here's the way I cured myself. One of the ways, I had kids. I've got 3 kids, and once you become a dad, you will tell any stupid joke or act in any stupid way just to get a baby or kids to laugh. Trust me. And so I cured my worries about looking stupid. Sometimes I can use my fingers to kind of push the paint around. Wow, we've got 7 viewers now. 7 viewers. Welcome, everybody. It's really cool to have so many people joining me. And all the people who are joining, if you want to make a comment, you can, and I can respond to it, but you don't have to. That's what I tell people when I do group therapy, because the group therapy that I do is mindfulness, and I teach people about different mindfulness techniques, and that's what I tell them. You don't have to participate, but feel free to if you want. I've thought about taking my mindfulness practice, because I do workshops where I work. Hi, Jennifer. All right. I got a personal friend on here. I'm going to say a dear friend. I've got a dear friend on here who's quoting my own song to me. To me, viral is anything that goes like 1,000 views. So that's a song that went viral by my definition. Okay, I'm just going to hold off on that part for just a second. So far, this is a, hey, Rachel, my friend from Japan. It's really nice to have friends from Japan, because you can, if you are bored and you want somebody to chat with early in the morning in the United States, it's the middle of the day in Japan, so they're around to chat. Just like my friend Rachel. Dr. Cola. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Cola. Okay. I am just trying to put in some cool areas here. Let's pull that into the nose a little bit. We've got 7 viewers. That is so cool. I'm always so grateful when people want to watch. So now I'm pulling this out a little bit. And anything that I want to be darker, I just do another pass. Let's add a little edge to it. And for anyone who's just joining, if you're interested in helping me or seeing more in the future, you can like this video and then you can subscribe to the page. And if you subscribe to the page, it helps me out too. Here's your ear. Okay, so in the reference, the fingers here are so dark, so I'm gonna really emphasize that like this. What I need is a microphone. Let's see if I can do it. Really point the microphone at the paper because I like the sound of it. You know how Bob Ross, he would, like, you could hear the sound of it. And, you know, he used like oil paint, so it would, you get a lot of this sound. This is just a dry brush, but I gotta get some of that. This microphone, I'll tell you the story of this microphone that I'm using. It's a Rode NT3 microphone. And I bought it in Seattle about, not joking, almost 20 years ago. I was living with my uncle at the time. And I got it just at a music store, and it's a mic that's partly for recording music, but also for like doing like video recording, and so it picks up sound that's far away. That's why I use it. Plus I'm just used to it and I like it. It's good for recording an acoustic guitar, I found. How do I care for my brushes? Gosh, that is a good question. And the answer is I don't really do a good job of that. But the important thing is making sure they're cleaned out when I'm done and making sure you kind of keep the point. So this is a Princeton Velvet Touch brush, but making sure that point stays pointy when it dries. And another thing is don't leave it in the cup of water, brush side down. So, and I just, that was a mistake. I'll block that out. There we go. But historically, I've found my brushes don't last too long because I use them a lot. I can hear the brush strokes, especially when I'm mixing paint on the palette, huh? If I were watching, I would want that. You can probably hear a clock ticking in the background too. Oh, you can hear it on the paper? Okay. I'm just going to do a really light wash here. But this is really light. And the trick is if you go over what you've already painted, it gets a little darker and you can blend it all in. and then there's kind of a bridge between these planes. It's a pleasant sound, good. It must be a really soft sound too. Okay, I think I've got all the cool areas blocked in. Let's see. This is a, ooh, I gotta be careful not to do that. Put my hand on there. I just love how each layer just enriches what's already there. And you can see the values going into, it's just so nice. That's what I mean when I talk about, doing paintings mindfully, because for me, the mindful part is just listening to what you're doing, just noticing the colors and being curious. And there are different, there are mindful ways to do art and non-mindful, but when you're doing it mindfully, you're less concerned with the outcome and more just curious of where it's going to go. And that means a lot of experimentation and sometimes train wrecks. Like therapy, each layer enriches. Yeah, that's true. Oh man, the layers that can come out. Jennifer, somebody comes in for sleep problems and then suddenly you find out all these things about them. Stuff that they need to work on that they've been neglecting. And if you're a good therapist and they trust you, then suddenly things come out. Suddenly you plan for 2 sessions with a person and then suddenly it's 4 sessions and then 8 sessions. Sometimes I like to just see how far I can get with one color. And I've gotten pretty interesting with this one color, but I like to liven it up, just add some life to it. So the way that I usually do that is get some permanent orange. And either some pink or some red. I'm going to go with a quinacridone pink. Kind of creates this peachy type color. And I'm going to make a real light wash of it. So obviously this is going to be warmer than the blue. And this is pretty dry. And so now I'm going to look at the warmest parts of the face, and then I'll probably darken with some blue after that, and then I'll add some pink, maybe on the cheeks, so I can go more yellow or orange in some areas, but I can go more pink using this mix that I have. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to come down the nose here. I'm just going to be really careful with what I'm doing. if this is warm here. And I'm still looking for value, so light and dark. But I'm also looking for warm and cool. This color got a little muddy there. I'm noticing this whole area under the lips and chin is warm, so I'm really just going to do a wash under the whole thing. Mindful art is what I'm all about. For me, it's a blend. So I love doing art mindfully, but I had to get to a point where I had a process that I could trust in. So I had to practice enough for me to be able to go on autopilot sometimes. So not everything strictly is an experiment or just totally mindful. Sometimes it's just kind of like I rely on the skills that I've developed over time. And then sometimes it's all about experimenting with some new thing that I've never tried before. Maybe I saw another artist try it, or I just wanted to try some new thing. Sometimes my painting's not going well, so I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna try some new thing, because what do I have to lose at this point? How's that looking? So far, so good. Also, here's the thing. Watercolor looks like crap when you start, and even about halfway through. And sometimes you just have to roll with it, and then it starts to look good. But you don't know that until the very end. So there's also some trust, some faith. I don't know what to call that, but you have to trust the process. Okay. And there's some of this here. So I'm going to make a little bit more of an orange mix here. Still got 6 viewers. Hey, everybody. Okay. I'm going to warm up this cheek here because that's where some light is poking through. We got a Rembrandt effect. In fact, that's one of the reasons I chose this painting to do, is I love that a little bit of light on the side of the face, but just enough to kind of have it poking out. And I'm seeing a lot of warm tones here, so I'm just gonna... Creating art helps me focus and diminishes the amount of random thoughts as I work, so therefore I love to sketch as much as I can. I can relate to that. It's a way to focus your brain. Because it's an immersive experience, so it's like you're using all the parts of yourself, all the parts of your brain at once. And there are some psychologists that talk about these states where all of our brain is kind of working at once. They call them flow states. And there's an Eastern European psychologist with a name that I will never be able to pronounce, Starts with a C. Csikszentmihalyi or something like that. Anyway, he studies these flow states where people who have gained some mastery or expertise in something, and in my case, competence, and it's like all their senses and all their physical abilities kind of going at the same thing at once. I want to add this little blue here because in the reference I see this blue and I want to, oops, it's bleeding a little bit, but that's okay. This little corner looks cool because it's got some hair texture. I'm just going to leave it like that. See how the blue just kind of ends there? I like how that looks. But let's see. While I've got some blue, I'm just going to add some there. Okay. So how do I go darker? I go darker by put some more paint together, and then I can do another layer. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Let's see. Still a little damp up here at the top, so I'm just going to wait on that. In fact, I could probably, this is the darker mix. I'm actually going to do this side of the face here. So mindful art versus non-mindful art. I think non-mindful art is more automatic. You're kind of just applying a process that you know. There's less experimentation. It's a little more mechanical. And for me, that's helpful at times. There are benefits to that. And then mindful art is more experimental. There's more focus on the sensory experience. I really like how that looks on the side. See how it kind of blends together and makes kind of a mottled reddish blue. The other crazy thing about watercolor is, you know, when you mix two paints together, blue and red, you'll get purple, right? Well, if you're doing watercolor, sometimes you can get a wash that's like reddish blue and not purple. It's so strange because both the blue and the red kind of shine through. One of the things I love about it. Okay, get some more pink here. And when I'm looking at my reference, seeing there are some areas that are more orangish, so here on the nose and on the periphery here, and then this is very light. And then there are places that are more pinkish. Of course, the lips, the end of the nose here, it's more pinkish here in the eyes. And so I'm gonna do more pinkish in the pink areas, orangish in the orange areas, but really it's just pink and orange. And I'm just adjusting the levels of which one I'm using. I'm always self-conscious when I lean over to blow the dust off my paint because you can see the back of my head. And I'm afraid I'm going bald, so I got a bald spot. I know that's not very punk rock to worry about that. I think I can learn about color by watching your videos. Yeah. Even I can, when I go back and watch a video, I'm like, oh, I learned something. A lot of times I listen to music while I paint, but obviously I don't do that when I'm live streaming because I don't want to get too distracted. Plus, if it comes through, I'm afraid I'm going to get like a copyright ding or something. So that part is more warm. And then there's a big warm right here. Very warm. Coloring tends to make me nervous because I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, but I've kind of developed a method that works for me. But I'm always open to new colors. Rachel, what is your favorite to listen to while painting? Well, I have a couple different playlists. So YouTube knows me pretty well at this point, and so I'll just start one of my mixes. But lately I've been listening to a band called Metric and Silver Sun Pickups. They're kind of two bands in the same vein. But I also like old blues music, so I've been listening to Bobby Bland, who I did a painting of not too long ago. Okay, this part's dry now. There's probably a better way to do it than just like scratching with your finger. I'm going to add a little more pink for this one. So this is quinacridone pink. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm just going to do this. Metric, you like Metric, Claire? That's great. Yeah, I've been listening to them a lot. I heard them on NPR once, and they seemed like really interesting people, and it was a good interview. And so then I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to their music. And I listened, and the songs that came up were not my favorite. So I was like, oh, darn. And then I forgot about them for a long time. And then they autoplayed from something on YouTube. And I loved those songs. And I was like, oh, man, if I'd have just listened to these songs, I would have liked them. But such is life. And it's good because sometimes music hits at different times of your life. And, you know, love Silver Sun. Cool, Laura. If you like Silver Sun Pickups, you'd probably like Metric. They're like Silver Sun Pickups, but with a woman vocalist and a little more dance pop-ish. And when I listened to them, I was like, you know what this music sounds like? It sounds like Scott Pilgrim music from that show. That movie, I should say. And then it turns out, I think they were on the soundtrack of that movie. So I was like, oh, I was right. What I'm doing right now is I'm looking at very subtle variations and turning them into not subtle. So where I see like a hard boundary or something, or a soft boundary, I like to make it into a harder boundary. And a lot of my style just comes down to that. It's just taking very subtle things and making them not subtle. This part of the nose is almost completely washed out. The actors did a cover. It sounds like you know more about this than I do, Claire. Again, Scott Pilgrim. It's so weird because at first I remember I was working at a guitar shop. I used to repair and sell guitars all through undergrad. And this is where I'm making the red lips, pink lips here. And I remember they made the Scott Pilgrim folks. They sent all these flyers out to the music shops because they wanted musicians to listen to it or watch the movie and get all hyped up. And I remember thinking, oh, they're just pandering to us. I was such a snob when I worked at a music store. Working at a music store does something to you, man. I don't know. Scott Pilgrim. Hey, Claire, if you know the comic book, maybe you can help me because my children like graphic novels, and I wondered if they might like Scott Pilgrim, but I don't know what is a good age for that. Maybe you can help me out with what is a good age for Scott Pilgrim comic book, because I think my oldest is 10, and he can handle some grown-up topics, but he's like interested in young people stuff. So maybe you can tell me, what age do you think they'd fully appreciate it? Not just whether it's appropriate or not, but whether they'd appreciate it. That's important. All right. Teenage? Okay. So my son's 10, so maybe after a couple years he'll appreciate it. One cool thing about having kids is just showing them new things. So I had to pick cool movies that are good for all of them. And my youngest is 6, but we watched The Hobbit. We did watch The Hobbit. That was cool. So now what I'm doing is I'm looking at the photo reference and I want to figure out what do I want the focus to be on. And even though in the reference these fingers are really dark, I don't want the focus to be on the fingers, and so I'm not going to darken that too much. I think the darkest parts are going to be here and on this eye, and then down here on the side of the face, and then fade out going this way. So that's where I'm kind of taking liberty with the source material. Okay, this is dry. I'm going to do another layer here. That's where I'm taking liberties with source material because I want people's eyes to be kind of focused to a certain place in the painting. So now I'm adding in some Prussian blue to the blue I was using before, and I'm just going to look for where I want the darkest to be, and it's over here. But I don't want any part of the painting to be too dark, because this is an experiment, like I said, in kind of how light can I go and still create an impression of what I'm doing. What paper am I using? Well, Laura, I'm using Arches Cold Press, which is my favorite watercolor paper. And I might as well tell you, I've got a plan. Laura, I don't know if you forgive me, because it could be that I'm really familiar with your page and I don't know it, but if you're a watercolor artist, I'm about to do, as soon as I hit 3,000 followers, I'm going to do a giveaway and maybe give away some Arches Cold Press paper as well as a painting. So actually I'm going to go over this spot. So if you do watercolor and you've never tried arches, and especially if the price is too much, I would recommend waiting a little bit, and then I will do a giveaway at 3,000 followers, and you can try to get in on it. I like to tell people with watercolor, you'd think it's the brush, and you would think that it's the paints, but I have found that like 50% of your quality is going to be in the paper. It's all about the paper. I don't know why I lost the ability to talk just now, but I'm really digging how this is turning out. Just trying to be real subtle about it. This is going to need a lot more layers. Well, maybe not a lot, but and let's see, where else do we have? I'm only a beginner, but I would love to try it. Hey, we all got to start somewhere. And when I first started out, I just got cheap paper, you know. Just like the cheap paper, literally, that you get like at Staples, like an office supply store. I was like, watercolor paper, this works. And when I finally tried arches, I was like, oh man, it's almost like I had to relearn how to do watercolor at all, because the experience is so different. And so now I tell people, you know, as early as you can, don't spend a bunch of money on the paints. All you need are like 2 or 3 tubes of good Daniel Smith paint, or Winsor & Newton paint, or something like that. And brushes, you can literally go cheap on the brush. You can get really cheap on the brushes. Don't stress out about brushes at all. If it says it's for watercolor and it holds water and it comes to a point, that's all you need at first. The brushes I'm using right now are the Nick Runge signature brushes, and they are a little pricey. But I've also got this Velvet Touch Princeton that I like, and it works pretty well, and just a few dollars. So yeah, if you're going to spend money, spend it on the paper, and don't be afraid of kind of ruining a few pages just in practice. And if you kind of approach that with boldness, you're gonna do fine. And feel free to send me a direct message if you have any questions about techniques or anything, because I really benefited from people who are kind enough to answer my questions when I first started out. Okay. I'm kind of wondering how much hair I want to paint in, but honestly, I kind of like how it's looking, and I like the balance right now, so I think I'm just gonna let it be. Just kind of imply the existence of, maybe I can kind of do I don't know. Maybe I can kind of do just some basic lines. That's it. Okay, I need to wait for this to dry. So, in the meantime, I was going to show you some of the local stuff that I found that I bought at a recent market. So Knoxville has a really cool market. It's called the Punk Rock Flea Market. And it's like a once a year thing where they have punk bands and other musicians play. And everyone can dress up. A lot of people dressed up like punks and stuff. But so I got this. All right, so the person, I actually don't know their first name, but dbopdo_art. I'll have a link to this afterwards when I do it. But look at this print. It's so cool. Got a pig here, some wheels with spokes. This is like a rose pattern. And it's just got like the stereoscope look. I really like that. So that's a cool print that I got. There's a book that they publish in Knoxville, Knoxville Mermaid, by Eleanor Scott, illustrated by Adam Purnell Deal. And they even gave me a print, which is cool. But this is a shout out to them because it's a kind of a children's book, but it's got these cool artworks, and it's about a mermaid that lives in Knoxville, Tennessee, in the Tennessee River. So they're like landmarks from Knoxville Mermaid. That's really cool. This is my favorite though. There's a guy, his Instagram says John Pemberton, and he does these things where this is a VHS, Mario and Luigi, Super Mario Brothers Super Show. He takes an old VHS and then he makes these 3D wood painted decorations with them. So I'm gonna display these somehow. I think probably my kids are gonna want the Mario one. Check this one out. Raising Arizona. And on the inside, Nick Cage. These are really cool. So John Pemberton, and his Instagram says Knox Found Art. So yeah, some really cool stuff. Whoops, I almost knocked my my ruler off the table. Okay, so back to this. Let's see, is it still drying? What I can do is I can get my big brush, and I like to do just a really, really light wash down here because it's really cool down here, but I want some contour. Just a really light color. Okay, so in the source reference, there's some areas that are very orange. So what I want to do now is just kind of mix up a more pure orange layer. And very carefully, I'm just going to do a big broad wash. And this is going to be orange. And I want it to be really pure orange. So I'm going to make sure I don't get any blue to contaminate it. I'm really cleaning out my brush here. Hi, Elizabeth. I love the VHS things. I love them so much. They're really great. Okay. Knox Found Art, if you like the VHSs. They're just really cool. All right, I'm getting a big, watery, orangish wash here. I found that orange really gives life to a portrait. And I got to be quick and I got to be careful with these washes because it's possible to kind of disturb the layers underneath, and I don't want to do that too much. So I don't want to do more than a pass. So I'm just really carefully going to do that. And it's like this. And what I'm leaving are just the lightest colors. So out like this. And I'm pulling down this way. It changes the whole feel to it. And I'm really going to do a watery. I want to soften that edge a little bit. There we go. And I'm not going to soften this edge. I'm going to actually pull the orange down a little bit more like that. Raising Arizona, yeah. So here's the story about my family. My mom used to have this crush on Nicolas Cage back in the day. Now Nicolas Cage is kind of a joke, like everyone does their impression of him or whatever. But he was just kind of like this eccentric artsy guy back then, you know. Maybe you remember. And my mom just had a crush on him. She thought he was the coolest. So we gave her a hard time about that. And my dad was just nonplussed. Like he didn't know what to do with the information that his wife had a crush on Nicolas Cage. No idea what to do with that. So I'm going to paint in these fingers, but I want it to be subtle because I really don't want the focus of the viewer to be on the fingers. I'm noticing that this color that I've done, this orange, is a little strong, and I'm not unhappy with it, but I'm going to try to balance it out. Okay. So I'm going to get a little alizarin crimson now and mix it with a little Prussian. So is that what I want? This is going to be kind of a muddy, it's going to end up looking brown. Let's see. Let's have it mostly red and blue, so it's a purple. And actually I don't like that. Abort, abort. I don't like the orange in there. It's just going to be Prussian and alizarin crimson. Okay. That's a dark color and it's a bold color, and that's why I'm gonna really water it down. Okay, now I'm gonna get the side of the face here, the darkest areas. And I think this really might be the darkest I want to get in this painting. I left this light on the side of the face poking out, but it's not that light in the, so I'm not going to go into there very much. Okay. And I'm going to brush up like this. Thanks for joining us, by the way, Elizabeth, if you're still there. So I'm going to take more of the red and fill in that side of the face. But because it's red, the value is going to be, or the color is going to be a little different. Look at that. That worked. And I love how that's bleeding in. So I'm just going to encourage it and let it go. Let's see, maybe I'll clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to take some nice shadow. Thanks. That was an experiment. All right. So I'm just taking a little water and I'm just going to soften that edge. Okay. And then this is still damp, so I'm going to focus on another area for a bit. I like how this looks here. This whole side is really messy. It's just like bleeding like crazy, and I think I like it that way, so I'm just going to leave it. And I'm going to have a little red there. And you know what? I do want some red here too. So let's just fill that in. It's bleeding a bit into the hair. And I don't exactly want that, but I'm going to put in a dark layer so it won't matter. This looks a little bit like a mess right now, but I'm going to really define this eye part and define the darkest parts. So like here, it's going to be a little dark. This is going to be dark here. Okay, so I'm not going to go any darker with these fingers. I'm just going to blend these, and that's going to be it. Hi, Drew. Thank you for saying that. That's my whole intention, is just to have something soothing to watch. Hi again, Liz. Love how this is coming along. Yeah, me too. I'm really happy with it. Okay, let's see. Still a little damp. You can't be impatient with this stuff. And that's my vice, is impatience. I am just a really... I don't know if my voice... Like you're listening to my voice and you're thinking like, this sounds like a really impatient dude. But I am. Don't let my voice deceive you. I can be very impatient. And so one thing about watercolor is it does force me to be patient. All right, let's see here. Damp, damp. Okay, that's dry. So this is like a deep purple, man. There's a lot of memorization involved in art, so it tends to feel like a magic show to watch painters paint. I can see that. It's just like, wow, how's he doing that? And it's really just a practice thing. I mean, you just do it for a while, and you start to learn tricks, and then you just know when to employ the tricks. I like how that turned out. Sweet. And actually, I think I got the likeness okay, even though I wasn't necessarily intending to get a perfect likeness. And here's another thing, Claire. A lot of it is just making a lot of mistakes. So my brother, I can't speak Spanish. Elizabeth, I think you can speak Spanish, right? Did you tell me you can? I could be wrong about that. So my brother's fluent in Spanish, and I'm not really fluent in any other language besides English. I'm decent at English, but that's it. And he said, Arthur, you got to get through 10,000 mistakes to learn a language. And the thing that keeps people from learning a language is they're so embarrassed, they don't want to make the mistakes. And so they never get through that process where they're actually learning how to do it. And I think that's art too. So there's something about you just getting frustrated and having to throw away a bunch of artwork that that really helps you kind of learn how to do it. Okay, so how am I feeling about this piece? Now it's looking really orangish and really purple, which is not necessarily how I started out. I want to do some rapid drying here, so I'm going to use the hair dryer, and you don't want to hear that, so I'm going to turn off the mic here for a second and do the hair dryer. Hold on one second. Yep, yo habla español. Okay. Well, that's a lot better than me. I speak one language. And actually, Rachel, who was on here earlier, she might still be there, is a professional translator. She's Japanese, which I think is so cool. And she even writes short stories and poetry. I think poetry. Short stories, anyway. In Japanese, and then she translates them herself. Okay, I want this to be just a living portrait. So I'm going to add some red here. Okay, that kind of changes the feel to it, doesn't it? Because now it's all, hello, I have red lips. And there's a little orange in there too. And where else do I want this red? A lot of times I like to do red on the nose because even though it's not quite exactly what I'm seeing in the reference, it kind of brings life to it. And then let's do some red there. And now I want some of that reddish orange on the eye area. And when I'm using red to bring life to a portrait, orange kind of brings life, and then red brings this warmth, this heat. And these are the areas of the face where capillaries are under the skin. And I say this every time I paint, but it's true. I think about, well, where are the capillaries? And actually, I'm going to fill in a lot of this. And I think we're getting close to the end here. Because again, this is an experiment in minimalism for me. And so rather than overwork it, I'm going to try to get in that sweet spot where it's looking really abstract. But the likeness is there. This is really red too. Let's get some of that red here. And I especially want red under here. Hi again, Drew. It's nice having the warmth where there are highlights and then having cooler colors as shadows. Yeah, that's the idea. So, like I'm really struggling with it right now because do I bring the red into the cool area or just kind of leave this as cool? And right now I'm thinking just leave it cool. Just play it cool, boy. Just charging this area with a little color. And I want some color on the eyebrows here too. What do I want to do? I want to add a little bit more red on the chin. Another trick that I've learned along the way that I like. Drew, if you like it, then I like it. Like, really. So, anytime skin touches skin, you get a little action where the capillaries that touch each other, like here, you can't really see, but sometimes that can really warm up the color. And so I like to paint some red warmth in those areas as well. Okay, I'm seeing some cauliflower that I don't like here, so I'm just gonna do that. But I want to make sure this is red here on the nose. This is one of those if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of things where this area, it does seem a little washed out, but I like it, and I'm afraid if I darken it, it'll lose some of that charm that it has right now. So I might just leave it how it is. How about I split the difference? I can just do some darker lines with Prussian and just do some stylized here and there. just going to darken this area here. And then as that lightens up, it'll just be just a little. And then the boundary here. And I think once I get the boundary in, that'll be enough. But I do want to darken where the eye is. That feels important to me. Okay, not that dark. That's ridiculously dark. Let's do something like this. Okay, I'm gonna do hairdryer one more time. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a darker color here, and I'm just gonna make sure that this stands out. Oops, here we go. So, and the reason I'm doing this is gonna solidly bring the viewer's attention to the eye. And it'll dry lighter than it looks right now. Maybe a little here. Nah. You can do a lot with dry brush. Okay, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm liking it where it is. I might wrap this up earlier than expected. And I've still got 8 viewers. That's so cool. It is so kind of everyone to follow and listen along. It's really validating for me, and I feel like I'm doing a good job. So thank you so much. There we go. I think I'm gonna call it because I don't want to ruin it. Like I said, thank you everyone for joining me. I hope you sleep well tonight. I hope you have a good week. And like I said before, hopefully it's not too annoying, but if you like this video, you can actually click like on it, and you can subscribe to my channel. Even if you don't use YouTube that much, you can still just click subscribe, and you can get kind of updates, and you can get alerts for when I'm going to be on next. So yeah, feel free to do that. You also help me feel validated over on Instagram. Love watching your process. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, want to do this again sometime. So maybe next Sunday, but definitely some Sunday. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and sign it. Part 21. Okay. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Have a good night.